right, 7th graders, we're going to work on ways of analyzing a group of numbers. Okay? And there are 3 ways that we can, well actually 4 ways we can analyze these numbers. And they're all based on figuring out what's the best way to represent the middle of a set of numbers. So, one of the ways to find the middle number, or the middle of the set of numbers, is to find what's called the mean, or the average. And I think you're familiar with average. You see average listed on stat sheets, for example. Average yards per catch, or average points per game. It's the average, or the mean. It's adding up all of the numbers that you're given, and then dividing by the number of numbers. Okay? When you add up all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers, you get the amount per chance, or the amount per turn. And that's called the mean. The mode is the number that occurs the most often. Sometimes when you are doing something, you'll get a number that continues to repeat, called the mode. And so, if you do have those, then you'll have, you can find the mode easily. Sometimes there will be no mode, meaning that all of the numbers occur the same number of times. Maybe 2 numbers occur twice in a set. Then you'll have 2 modes. So the one that occurs the most often is the mode. The median. The median is, if you think of a median on a road, it's the middle. It separates the 2 sides. And so the median number is the middle number. Or I should say really the middle value in the set. Because you find it, if there's an even number of numbers, then you have to find it by finding the 2 middle numbers, adding them together, and then dividing by 2, or finding the average of the 2 middle numbers. Okay? Now, one thing you have to do with the median is you have to put the numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay? When you're given a set of numbers, oftentimes they're not in numerical order. So in order to find the median, you have to put the numbers in order from least to greatest. And then you can find the 5th value, or the 6th value, or whatever is the middle value of those numbers. Sometimes you'll have to find the range of the numbers. Where do the numbers range? And that's simply the difference between the biggest and the smallest. So you subtract the biggest from the smallest and you get the range. And then the last concept is, it might not be familiar to you, it's called the central tendency. That term means, basically, it's a question. Which of these 3 best represents the middle of the set? So it'll ask you, what is the central tendency? Or what is the best measure of the central tendency? And what that question means is, which one of these numbers, either the mean, the median, or the mode, best represents the middle of the set of numbers? And you might choose, I think the mean represents the middle number. So then the mean is the best central tendency because it is the exact middle value. It might be the median. Or it might be, it's generally not the mode, but sometimes it's the mode. You have to just decide which of those numbers best represents the middle value in the data set. Okay? Now, on your assignment, and I'll come back to the notes if you need to copy those later. Okay? But let's look at the assignment together. So, we're given some numbers. Number 1, are those numbers in order from least to greatest?
No.
No, not quite. So let's, first of all, you got to put the numbers in order from least to greatest. 14.2, and then 14.3, and then 14.6, and then 14.7. So that's the first thing you need to do whenever you're given a set of numbers. Okay? Then, to find the mean, you add up all the numbers, and then what are we going to divide by? 4. Yep, there's 4 numbers. So, has anyone added up those numbers yet? Use a calculator to add up those numbers. Amanda, did you add them up?
57.8.
57.8. Does anyone have it? Anyone else have 57.8? Is that what you got, Roy? Oh, add them up. $57.8?
Yeah.
Is that what you got, Jen? Brett? Good. All right. We got it. So the total is 57.8. Now, to find the mean, we have to divide it by 4 because there are 4 numbers. 14.5?
45.
14.45. Now, in the directions it says round to the nearest tenth. So if we have 14.45, the nearest tenth is 14.5, right? According to the rules of rounding, we're going to round this up to 14.5. Circle that one. The median. Yeah, we have 4 numbers, and so we can't pick a middle number. There'd have to be an odd number of numbers to pick a middle number. So we have to average the 2 middle numbers. Find the mean of the middle 2 numbers. So add these 2 together. Now divide by 2. 28.3. You mean 28.9? Isn't it 28.9?
Yeah.
And then divide by 2. What is that? 14.5. The mode.
Yes.
It is?
Yeah.
Well, and then when we round it, according to the rounding rules, we round it again to the nearest tenth. Now, the mode. Are there any numbers that repeat? Because the mode is the one that occurs the most often. They all occur the same number, so there is no mode. And that's exactly what you write, no mode. Okay? Now, what if it asked, what is the central tendency? What would that mean? What does that question mean? What is the central tendency? The central tendency refers to the number, when we analyze these, the number that best represents the middle. Would it be the mode? No. That doesn't make any sense if there's no mode. So it's either going to be the mean or the median. Since they're the same, you would write that the mean or the median could be used as the central tendency because they're the same and they both represent the middle value in the numbers. They both represent the center, which is why it's called the central tendency. Okay? So just keep that in mind when you're asked about the central tendency. You're choosing either the mean or the median or possibly the mode. Okay? Any questions on this? Mean, median, mode, central tendency, range is the difference between the highest value and the lowest value. All right, good.
Time.